Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Vertical Slice. I'm Gareth, and today we shall be slicing into the sinister Control. So Control came out in 2019, end of 2019, from Remedy Games, their latest title after Quantum Break. And before that, of course, we've got Alan Wake and then Max Payne way back in the day. Remedy, one of my favorite developers. I really love probably almost all the games they've brought out. Yeah, Alan Wake I think is probably their weakest game, just because the gameplay is a bit, kind of one note. Best way to describe it, but the setting and everything else is fantastic. And Control really marks a return to form for Remedy in terms of gameplay, story, setting, just about everything Control does really, really well. So we will get into it. I was wanting to show you from the very beginning of the game because basically it's a quite story-driven game, and I don't want to spoil anything. The joy of exploration is really key to Control. But for some stupid reason, if you try and do mission select and then start from the beginning, it says I'll overwrite your progress. So I don't want to do that because I'll lose all progress I've made in the game. So basically, we will just have to run around post game and not do any story content, which may result in a bit of a boring vertical slice. But we'll do what we can. So I will just click continue. Control is set in modern day in the fictional US Bureau of Control. Just load it in here for a second. And you play as this lady who is called Jessie Faden. And she is basically, she arrives at the Bureau completely, out of the ordinary, and just kind of like shows up on the doorstep and is wondering what on earth is happening. And the storyline basically revolves around how Jessie becomes the new bureau director very suddenly and very dramatically after the old bureau director shot himself in the head. Not something to laugh about. Sorry, that was nervous laughter. So it basically, the story is a very Twin Peaks style, merged with the X-Files, merged with what's the thing it takes the most inspiration from? It's completely blanked out of my head. There are several kind of settings it takes its inspiration from. So this guy here is Trench. He is the former director of the Bureau, played by James McCaffrey, the voice actor of Max Payne. So you get to hear a load of Max Payne voice. So anyway, the first thing really to mention about this game is it is completely gorgeous. Just absolutely everything about the game looks really good. Now, if you're seeing a bit of kind of ghosting or stuttering, that may be because what I'm doing is, so I'm running on one of the newer NVIDIA graphics cards, and these newer NVIDIA graphics cards have allowed for I'm trying to remember what it's called. It has a name. What's it called? Let's look in the options menu. It is called NVIDIA DLSS, Deep Learning Super Sampling. And so what it does, it basically takes the output resolution, it takes the render resolution as a lower resolution. So it's rendering at 720 and it is outputting it at 1080, but using deep learning software to get a better quality image. So that picture should actually be kind of like, I'm not sure why it's a bit fuzzy. Some of these things are fuzzy and some of them are not. You can see there that looks really good. When this technology first came out, it resulted in quite a blurry game. Everything looked a bit fuzzy and indistinct. It has definitely gotten better now. So I think that the game now looks, with DLSS on, it plays, for one thing, much better. The actual frame rate is really good. And graphically, you can't really tell. So, again, we look at that picture of a dog there on that desk. That looks very nice. But the main benefit to it is that you allow for certain, advanced graphical settings that Control has, which are these here. You can see the reflections. So these are, now I'm trying to remember the jargon on these as well. not very good on this. Let's go and have a look. Ray traced, that's it, ray traced reflections. So this does a variety of ray traced things, and because I'm running on one of the newer graphic cards, it's able to support this. However, if I was running this without DLSS on, the frame rate would really tank. You know, I played through most of the game with just the original standard settings, and it looked really good, but I think it was only averaging about 40 to 50 frames per second. It didn't consistently hit 60, whereas with this, you know, it is hitting it. So, you know, from a technical point of view, this game really hits all of the, you know, markers in terms of setting, in terms of how beautiful everything is, in terms of the, you know, stark, I love these brutalist architecture of everything. It just looks so intimidating, but, you know, really cool at the same time. And story-wise, so yeah, Jesse basically comes to the Bureau in this building. This is called the oldest house where the Bureau is maintained, and it is kind of this naturally occurring building, which, you know, can mold itself and shape itself into kind of like random shapes. So the US government did not design this, it was created for them, kind of, and it's all of this is kind of part of stuff that you will gradually, you know, learn as you go through. So here we are in executive affairs. These people are kind of a major issue that's been going on. So basically, when Jessie arrives in the Bureau, she discovers that the you know, the people, the employees, have been overtaken by this thing called the Hiss, and you'll probably be able to hear them kind of chanting there. So the Hiss is this alien force that has infected the Bureau, and kind of like anyone who has not got one of these like protective devices has been taken over by it. The lowest level of infection is just like floating and doing this incantation. But if we go to another sector, you will see one of the more serious results of this, which is basically that they fight back against you. So most of the game is Jesse going through the different areas of the Bureau, trying to clear them of the Hiss infection, and, you know, bring the Bureau back under control. There's also Jesse's brother who comes into the plot quite significantly, and, you know, he is also overtaken by the Hiss, and you have to try and deal with him. So gameplay, you have one gun, but one gun that can be reformed into, something else. One gun that can be reformed into different settings. So this is the service revolver. So by default, I think it has a normal, if I can remember how to change settings. How on earth do you change gun type? I have completely blanked on how to change gun type. Let's go to loadout. So at the moment we've got spin and shatter. You unlock several different types of gun modifications. So by default, the original one is grip, but you can basically reformat the service revolver so it acts as a, you know, an SMG, or as a shotgun, or as any type of gun, really. So this one, you can see it's an SMG, and then if I can remember how to change it, no, wrong button again. It's been a while since I played this, so now I've completely forgotten the controls. Let's have a quick look at controls. The controls for control: shoot, aim, shield, evade, launch, melee, no, use shield. Why is it not there? Aim, melee, use shield, launch, evade, toggle. You would have thought it would have been 1 to 3, but it's not. Doing 1 to 3 does nothing. It's not tab, is it? No, tab is the map. There you can see an idea of... So this is one sector, and there are several different sectors of the Bureau that you travel through. And, you know, that's not a normal-looking building that's so kind of like higgledy-piggledy. Goodness, this is... That's another set. So Jesse gets access to all sorts of secret powers, you know, or special powers. So the most basic one is the levitate one that you will be using a lot to throw at people and throw objects at people. Oh, goodness. This is ridiculous, is it not? The middle mouse button is also that. F? Yeah, F. There we go, it's F. So there you go. There is the shotgun one. And allows you to take out chunks. So a part of a real joy of this is that the shooting is really good. So let's actually get into that now and show you an example of that. Here are some Hiss people. So, ooh. He is gone. There are going to be some guys down here as well in the cafeteria. They always keep spawning here, basically infinitely. At least I thought they would. There he is. Oh. So Jesse has loads of abilities, including the ability to fly. Oh, we're going to actually seize that person. So they are kind of like taken over to work for you if you've got the ability to get them to work for you. Yeah, seize you too. And then they will basically help you defeat your enemy. But as you can see, just for an example here, this game just looks utterly unlike anything I've ever played in my entire life. Oh, is that it? Are we over? I think everyone is dead. So then these guys will just, you know, hang around until or until they eventually die naturally after a while. So you can see that we picked up some special materials. So you get access to these materials that allow you to then upgrade your abilities. So again, you can upgrade each type of the service revolver weapon. And you can also then get personal mods as well. So these mods then allow you to do certain things quicker. So you can see there, my seize speed for, you know, grappling enemies and turning them to your side is significantly reduced. Shield, I'm not sure why I've got that on. Shield on? Oh no, it's not on. Okay, that's just one of the shields I'm holding. So there's a shield ability which I never use, but you can have it there. What are the other ones I'm currently using? Energy recovery, so that just means that you can use your special abilities quicker. Seize speed again, I'm just using... launch energy cost. That just reduces the cost of using this. Whoa, there is still someone. They're up there. Take off again. Can't remember. You pick up health from enemies. You can see all the blue dots, they represent health. There is an ability to like charge itself. Oh god. Definitely need some help now. You can see that you are not very, you know, what do I call it? Not very strong when you actually hit by enemy. Still coming. Go, die. Don't think he's dead yet. Okay, now he's dead. Oh. Oh, okay, so have they reopened all these? These did not... These used to be closed, and you can only open them once, and I'm wondering if they've gone around and now, like, allowed them to be opened again. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that at least allows you a reason to go and explore places you've done before. So, you can see, this was a nice cafeteria at the beginning, and now it's just completely ruined, and that's part of the joy of, you know, going into an area, you know, exploring it and then ruining it, and the Bureau will have a tendency to then repair everything by the end, and so it's all okay again. Yeah, what's the ability? So you can launch into the air with that, and then you can see they've got that circle there. Is that? No, that's rush. Is it F? No, that is zoom. Spacebar is just drop. What is it? Shift? No, that is my dash. No. I cannot remember. Again, let's just double check the controls, but I think the controls are not going to tell me. Use shield, use evade, control. Oh, slam, C. That's it, C. So then you can go like whoosh, and then slam into the ground like that. And it's very, very, very cool indeed. Yeah, so, you know, you go around. Okay, we've got some more things here. We've got some more abilities. There are some areas where originally it will be like this, and you can see it's all corrupted there. Before the end of the game, a lot of areas like this, and you will go to a new area, and then you have to find the kind of portal where you will cleanse the area and then turn it into a more kind of like understandable, you know, region like this. You know, at least it makes logical sense. So let's actually just double check what abilities we got there in the loadout. I think we got a mod that we can get rid of. So again, there's a lot of mod management. Health plus 25%. It's only a rare, so it's not worth it. So we'll just deconstruct that. And then I think we got a weapon mod. Or did we not? No, we didn't. Okay, that's fine. I think that other one, the one we got, shield energy cost. Nah, I never use shield, so I'm just going to deconstruct that as well, actually. So I think the things that Control does really, really well are the gameplay loop is really good, so you get into a complete rhythm of coming to a new area, fighting through a load of the guys, and even though the guys do spawn in, you know, illogically, as in they'll just appear out of nowhere, it kind of makes sense for what the game is doing, you know, that they would do that, because they are, you know, aliens, basically. They've been overtaken. And the plot is actually pretty good. Jesse is a good character. You know, there isn't a massive amount of kind of cutscenes and plot, but it's enough to get you wanting to go around and explore everything. And you know, there are certain areas where, like, I've always wanted to explore. You know, it says the nostalgia department up there, but it's never technically endgame happens in the nostalgia department, but it never is like uncorrupted. Unfortunately, there are some other areas where it's never uncorrupted, and you're kind of like left with this. You know, it's all in its ruined state. Anyway, let's just keep having a walk around the executive suite or executive sector. So this is the dead letters department. You will slowly gain abilities through the game. So originally at the beginning of the game, you only have the gun. You don't have really any special abilities, and you will gradually, this is one of these portals I was talking about. They act as the fast travel as well. Gradually throughout the game, you will gain more special abilities by unlocking objects of power, they call them, so OOPs. Oops. This whole thing, you know, all of it is super silly, but it all makes sense in its own twisted logic. And as you gain more additional objects of power and you kind of conquer them by having like boss battles and stuff, you will then be able to do more things. So of course now I'm in the end game, I have the ability to fly and stuff like that, which allows me to get to these higher areas that in this area I would never normally, when we first came in, you could never actually get up there, but I think there is a way. Do I have to go? I'm trying to remember how I get up there. Go to there, and then that? Yes, there we go. And then you can get up to this level here. And there are all sorts of collectibles to get. Ooh. Come on, the radio is on somewhere. There are all sorts of collectibles to get. I think I've got most of them, but there isn't a guide anywhere, I don't think, to say what's 100% collectibles or not. But if I go into the collectibles here, I won't look at these because they're all, again, quite spoilerific. But there are all sorts of things about, you know, the enemy types and about cases and special items and correspondence with the Bureau, and there are just so many. There are also some really good videos. We'll just watch one Darling presentation because the Darling presentations are really good. Here is the Darling presentation on the oldest house. These are kind of like a staple tradition of Remedy that they will have in-game kind of
1964.
real-world cutscenes with actors, and this guy is super good. He's like, you only interact with Dr. Darling through these presentations, but he is so entertaining.
Once we became aware of it,
you know,
it was there.
So you can see in his picture, this is like what the oldest house looked like on the outside. But to people who don't know it's there, they won't see it. It's like invisible to them. So only when you know it's there will you be able to see it.
A place of power, an ongoing AWE of its own.
AWE altered world events, again in the game's lore. It's you know, a kind of like a weird event that doesn't make sense. I was about to say, I realised what the thing is, this takes a lot of inspiration from. It's the SCP Foundation online. So the SCP Foundation, a website where people can write stories in a kind of like fake scientific manner about weird and unnatural occurrences. And this takes a massive amount of inspiration from the SCP Foundation.
The Federal Bureau of Control was never out in the open. This was...
There you go. So, you know, loads of them, other recordings as well, including some very creepy ones, these Threshold Kids ones. And of course, there's Poets of the Fall because it's a Remedy game. I'll just come back up here and see if there's... I don't think there are any enemies in this area. That's the thing. Some areas always have enemies, and some areas never do in this like roaming around mode at the end of the game. We'll just walk down and go down here and then float. So, you know, Jessie is very special in that most other people before her have never had this ability of special power. I think it was said that like the last director of the Bureau could like move a ball with his mind like 5 meters or something, and that was considered very impressive at the time. So let's go onwards to the communications department. I'm pretty sure there are enemies in the mail room down here. Again, just love all of this very 1960s concrete, stark design on everything. It looks so fantastic. Let's get into another fight. Where's some guys? I don't think there's anyone in pneumatics. Again, just look at the lighting. The time that was spent making this game look cool, it's really paid off. It is one of the coolest looking games I know of. Anyone around? Anyone in here? No? Yes? No? Normally there are enemies in the mail room. Maybe they aren't. Maybe we'll go to the... Maybe it's not this part of the mail room. Maybe it's the central, like, switching room over here. Oh, there are also these, like, you know, around the place you can just get recording things that you can listen to, so...
You're like, listening to America Overnight.
Very, very Alan Wake, very, you know, Max Payne as well. I would say, I think in terms of like quality of the shooting is the best it's been since the Max Payne era. I still kind of like Max Payne 1 and 2 in terms of the shoot dodging and everything, and of course this doesn't really have shoot dodging. It's just got, you know, float up in the air and shoot things. But, you know, it's still cool. Let's see if there's anyone in here. No? Don't have many enemies on this level. Oh yeah, there we go. Thought so. Okay. I hate these guys because they've got rockets and they always throw the rockets at you. Hey, what I told you about the rockets? Ooh. So, you know, a lot of the gameplay is about moving as much as you can to try and avoid damage. So you just have to always keep moving. Wrong enemy. Damn. Where are they gone? They're definitely not dead. There it is. Got him. Right. I need to get some help. Can't you kill the guides? Why are you not killing the guides? So I found that teasing guys is super useful because obviously then you have like a little army at your disposal to help kill everyone. There's a guy up there. Something I don't know if I mentioned, all the weapons have infinite ammo, just on a cooldown timer. The guy's down there, but I can't tell who's my guy and who's not my guy. Whoa. Whoa. Well, that hurt me. But all the environments break apart in this really satisfying manner. I think that's everybody. Oh, it was already quite chaotic in here before that, but yeah. And then the remaining guys will die. I didn't seem to get anything useful from that, really. That's a shame. Yeah, every environment, you know, looks gorgeous, but then breaks apart into this, you know, complete mayhem. So that, you know, all the offices and everything, there are some excellent areas of, like, just lots and rows of desks and stuff, and you can just completely ruin them if you want to. And, you know, it will always be put back to be nice and neat at the end, you know. And that's cool. It's in terms of scariness, it's not that scary, but it's definitely got scary elements. Some of the end bits I found quite spooky, and certainly some of the enemies. There is the boss fight that I still have not managed to complete even now because the boss is just a real pain, and that actually brings me to one of the criticisms I have of the game in that I don't know if they ever fix this, but there are several boss fights where if you lose the boss fight, you have to run a real long distance to try and get back to the boss fight afterwards. There's no like quick reset. You don't just reset where you lost the boss fight. So this is like the end of the first kind of major level, the executive sector, is that you will come in here, and normally this is where the hotline will be, which is a telephone, and it's one of the objects of power, but of course we have picked it up, so there is absolutely nothing in here. But again, you can see there's another example of the lovely ray traced reflections. There are also like ray traced explosions and stuff, and it all looks so good. It is, yeah, I think one of the top 3 best looking games I've ever played, probably. Yeah, I'd say so. Anyway, we'll run back in here and then kind of like end things off in Jesse's office. So this is the director's office, where you will come originally after, being made director. I think there's a portrait of her over here somewhere. So an interesting thing is like basically the way you are made director is that you are appointed by this mysterious entity. If it loads in, that's one thing about the DLSS, is it takes a while for the high resolution textures to load in. There you go. Ooh, you can see it from some angles and not see it from other angles. Why is it? There you go. It's sometimes high res and it's sometimes not. DLSS not perfect. Yeah, Jesse was appointed by the board, another alien entity, but seemingly an alien entity that is friendly. But in terms of what the board is, or who they are, or anything about them, we don't really know. But because the old director had shot himself, you were the person who picked up the service revolver, you then became the new director of the bureau. So yeah, I think that's kind of a taster of the kind of gameplay loop of Control. Sadly, I can't show you any of the actual storyline as I wanted to, because I would have lost all my progress, and I don't really want to do that. But it gives you an idea of the gameplay and the setting and how gorgeous this game is if you've got a computer that can run it. Unfortunately, I think on consoles it's kind of it chugs a bit, and it's no doubt because of how detailed all the environments are and everything like that, and then all the explosion and stuff, that all looks super pretty as well. What's that? Oh, it's a little, and there you go, you can see her reflection there. It's very pretty. Anyway, yeah, so that's Control. I definitely recommend it. And if you enjoy shooters, if you enjoy science fiction shooters with a good story, ends a bit melodramatically and anticlimactically, but I liked it all the way through to the end. I certainly recommend checking out Control. So we will leave it there, and I will transition you back to the BBC Two clock. It's now coming on for just about 8:15, so it might be time for, if you haven't had dinner already, get on it, I say. Yeah. Anyway, that's it for now. I will be slicing. I will see you sometime next time when I slice into something else. Until then, goodbye for now.